Good day, and welcome to the Island Podcast with your host, Matthew Sclosy. Today I've got a special guest, another friend from university, Meghan Caveen.
Hello!
There you go, and not much else to say today, we'll just get right into it.
We don't even know what we're talking about yet.
No, and that is problematic. I actually should say congratulations to our mutual friend, Joseph Bukowski, for achieving his master's in history.
Yep.
Yeah.
Congrats, bud.
Yeah.
I'm going back to mine next week.
Yeah.
Fun, fun, fun!
Yeah. Well, we could talk a little bit about that, I guess, because that's something that I've never done.
That's true. So Joe did his MA in history, like standard history, and I'm doing mine in public history.
Right.
So it's different.
Right.
But yeah, I'll start with what public history is. So public history, in the most simplest terms, is anything that gets history to the masses or regular people. So it can be museums, archives. We actually had a podcast project that I somehow got out of.
Oh, nice.
Digital history, like kind of like pirate digital history, where that was another class I got out of. It's like, it can be anything, really, and
Right.
so it's so long as it gets out to the people and it's not in the academic world forever. That's basically public history. So I don't fully know what I want to do with it. I have worked in museums and archives before, but yeah, I just know that I struggle with academia because I'm dyslexic, I'm autistic, I have ADHD,
Yeah.
and I can't really read academic stuff if they get all pretentious and use those words. Like, the more I have to pause to Google or look up a word, the more I hate the author.
Right.
So, yeah, I want to get out of academia. I might one day go back for my PhD, but we will see.
Yeah, and this is the thing. It's like why I didn't go into a master's, because like I love reading some of those academic papers, but just it's so soul crushing. Like just my BA to write some of them. So yeah, that's kind of what turned me off from.
Yeah, it's really like, I've been reading some more academic stuff for my job that I just finished. And I was reading one about Black philosophy, and it was very easy to understand. I think the hardest part for me to understand was this one section where the authors go into a discussion about how some Black philosophers have to publish studies and stuff that have already been disproven by other, like, sciences and history and such. Because, so they say, like, for instance, something's the patriarchy's fault.
Okay.
But it's not. Everything else is proven that it's not the patriarchy's fault, that this thing is happening.
Okay.
It's colonialism, it's anti-black racism, it's all this other stuff. But if they say that, their career's basically in jeopardy.
Oh, really?
So that part, the way that they worded it, was the only part I was confused about. But it was like I figured it out once you got further on, because I just explained it.
Yeah.
There was another one I was reading about the fungibility of blackness. So fungibility is why a $10 bill is worth two $5 bills. It's the economic exchange of being the same worth.
Right.
So it was talking about how, like, they weren't, like, black bodies weren't just commodified, right? They weren't just a thing to sell. They were also fungible in the fact that one would equally do in a place of another, right? So they were very broken down into economic components and such like that.
Yeah.
So I was reading that one, and that one was harder to read. But because I didn't have to write it in an academic thing, whatever I learned from these, I was just able to like try to like say stuff like I'm talking to you.
But read and like take it in, and I don't want to use the word enjoy, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, so like I can read academic stuff at my own pace, and if I'm interested enough in the topic, I can plow through it. But
Right.
for masters, I'm a little, I'm a lot nervous.
Right, yeah.
Because I'm rusty. I already had imposter syndrome when I went last time, and then I had a leave of absence for 2 years.
Yeah.
So I'm back. I'm rusty. I'm nervous. I'm like, the imposter syndrome is going to be extra real this year.
Yeah.
And now classes are online. So seminars are going to be really tricky and really fun because I can't read people's body languages to know when they're going to talk first, right?
Right.
So we'll just have a bunch of it's like, great.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's especially with the whole, COVID aspect and all that. It's not looking. I'm glad I'm not involved with it anymore.
You're glad you're not in academia right now?
Yeah. Like,
wow, who would have thought?
I just, don't get me wrong, I loved my time at Algoma. But just some of the work was just...
Also, I feel like history students got to like live in this bubble too, because we had great profs for everything.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
We had one problematic student that
One?
Trapper. We had one problematic student. Yes, the special ed teachers were getting shafted, and we knew this, but they were still great professors.
Right.
And I'm friends with both of them on Facebook, even though one of them no longer works there.
Right.
And like they're great people. But I don't know. I feel like we just have a different experience of Algoma. And then as an Indigenous person, I have another different experience. And I'm not even connected to residential schools historically.
No.
Because my lineage was literally erased to like assimilate us. So I don't have that history, so I don't have the heaviness of it, but I still understand the heaviness and the sacred work that like Xinguak Kinomagi Gamig and Xinguak Residential School Centers and even SASA are doing for like Algoma, right? And that stuff and this like reclaiming, restoring peace to any of those energies or spirits that are still there, right? And not reversing, but like, like making efforts to like reconciliation, but real reconciliation.
Real reconciliation,
Though obviously some admin, their attempt at an anti-smudge policy, which I still don't know how that panned out. But like, yeah, it's pretty different for me. Like, I think of Algoma, but I also think of Xinguak. And I think of Nishipishu and Thunderbird. I can't really pronounce it well in Anishinaabe. But yeah, so like I think of those. I think of like the fall leaves and the Sylvan Art Tour.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh yeah, there's also the steel plant, the west side. Just the general cancer part. So I'm like, I miss it and I don't, and then I'm a southern baby, so I like my less severe winters.
Yeah, when I was in England, I did miss home a little bit, but when they were going through, like, I got one video from my dad of him plowing our driveway, and like it was like just a literal whiteout. If it wasn't for the red of the actual snowblower, like you wouldn't see anything else. Like it was terrifying. It's like, yeah, no, I don't miss that.
Yeah, meanwhile, when you were in England, your whole school shut down for less than a centimeter of snow.
And that's the other thing too. Like, so there's 1 week in February, we got like, I don't know, not even, yeah.
It was probably more than a centimeter, but like, before it was more, they had already called it canceled.
Yeah, they had literally shut down the entire country. There's no rail service in or out. I happened to go to get groceries, I think on the second or third day, and it, like, the Tesco looked like a wasteland. Like people were just like smash and grab. It looked like early COVID with, empty toilet paper.
You had a prelude of what COVID would look like.
Really. And then like there's me, like I'm still walking out in shorts.
You're showing off your true Canadian northerner
Really,
stuff,
yeah.
though certain Canadians north of the Sioux and anywhere else in Canada would say that you're not a northerner.
Well, yeah, there is.
But like, you're a northerner.
Yeah, I'm northern enough.
You're just like, you're Winterfell. The rest of Canada is it's the wildlings. It's fine.
Above the wall, yeah. Actually, we were just looking up, because I knew James Cameron. I forget why we were talking about James Cameron. Me and Jared.
Okay.
We were talking about James Cameron. I was like, I knew James Cameron was from the north. I was thinking Timmins. But no, apparently he was born in Kapuskasing. This is the random thing.
Where's that?
It's near Timmins, but it's like the very kind of francophone area. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I
That was actually...
forgot that he's Canadian.
Yeah, I know. It's not something you really think about. Actually, I think that was the place in the First World War when they interned the Germans and the Ukrainians and all that. That was one of the...
when we interned our citizens.
Right.
Okay, yes.
Yeah.
I was like, POW camp? I only
No,
went
no.
by Camp X.
No, sorry. I mean German, Canadian, Ukrainian, Canadian citizens.
Yes.
Or recent immigrants.
Yes. Luckily not mine, apparently.
No?
But they did change their name from Bausch to Bush. So maybe they snuck under the radar over there in Montreal.
Possibly. There's a lot of little things like that. Like Kitchener was originally Berlin. I mean, that's kind of the most well-known one, I think.
Yep. There's a lot.
Yeah.
And then after World War One, I think he was German. He's definitely a Slavic-speaking language or Germanic language.
Yeah.
I know that they're not that identical, but I don't have a great memory.
Right.
So, but he actually came over and he brought like I think maybe my dad said 40,000 people. And they created this whole village, and I think it's still there, and it's still on like a sign when you like are going up the 401 towards Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
But like it's not what it was, and it was he created a shoe factory, and now they have a shoe museum in Toronto. That's like their shoe museum.
Nice.
It's like whoa, but yeah. So like it's strange too how like even though we interned them, we had like an exodus of 40,000 people coming to our country.
Yeah.
It pays to be white.
Well, yeah, that's it. Is that you can get away if you're not a visible minority, you can get away with tricky little things like that. Like in my own family, and this is going a little bit farther ahead. So my dad's side of the family is Hungarian. I think it was either leading up to or during the Second Civil War, our last name was similar to a Hungarian Jewish last name. And now this is just like family accounts, so like I don't know if any of this is true. It's just colloquial, I guess. So it was apparently similar to Hungarian Jewish last name, not that we were necessarily Jewish. I mean, that's, kind of the line that gets told.
That's debatable because they wouldn't admit it at the time.
Right,
so...
exactly. That's the thing. So they had it changed to Sukoshi, which just basically mean there's a town, although I don't think we were anywhere near it, called Siklos, and then Siklochi is just like means you're
From there.
of that town. You're a Torontonian or a Suite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your last name is just like Torontonian for
That's
this
it.
town. That's great.
Yeah.
Great. I love it.
Yeah.
Um,
But I did do a 23andMe.
mhm.
So I mean that was kind of one of the things. My mom is the break, even though she's not blood related into the family, she's the one who was the big proponent of there might be Jewish ancestry on your dad's side. I did the 23andMe and nothing showed up. That still doesn't mean.
Yeah. DNA tests like 23andMe and Ancestry are kind of bunk science.
Yeah.
Because they're not doing it the way that like a real scientific exploration of DNA does.
Right.
So I remember I think somebody gave like their dog's hair to one of those ones, not the
Right.
dog DNA ones. They sent dog hair to a human
To
one.
a human one, right?
And the human one came back and said that they were like Welsh or something. It's like, no, this is a dog. But also they're used in such a strange way by a lot of people that they're problematic too.
Mhm.
Like Elizabeth Warren's husband is like on the board of directors or whatever of the DNA test company that she went to.
Yeah.
That said she has like 1% indigenous blood, and then she dragged out a cousin who married into her family as her indigenous proof. She's
Yeah.
like, this is my Cherokee cousin. It's like, she married into your family. That
Right.
doesn't count.
That's
Like, we do have different ideas of family,
right.
but that doesn't count the way that
Ye-
you do.
Right,
So
yeah.
it's like, no. But then,
But okay, one question: if her husband was on the board of directors for this company, where she got the test, and let's just say, she, I think what you're alluding to, that she fudged the numbers.
Yeah.
If you were going to fudge the numbers, wouldn't you fudge the numbers like higher than that? Like if we're gonna,
I might be wrong with the 1%,
Yeah.
but like,
it,
it was also a number that like
it was extremely
doesn't make
low.
sense,
Right? Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Also, considering her story was even that her mom was like at least half, and her parents had to run away to get married. But then the announcement in the paper talks about it, and they just like went to the next town. It's the
Yeah.
middle of the Depression. Of course, they went to the next town,
Yeah.
right? And they didn't invite people because they couldn't afford it. But there's an announcement, and it doesn't say anything about conflict. It's
Right.
like, no, I don't believe you. Your story doesn't check out.
Right.
But there is this this really cool DNA project going on for the Isle of Man, where my other biggest ancestry is from, and they're tracing name lineages. So for that, they can only use males, and that is like the very cis-normative version of males, but that's because of the chromosomes and DNA stuff.
Right.
But they're doing that because males usually keep their last names, right? And they give it to their children and such.
Right.
My family, me and my sister and my mom are the anomalies who always kept our last name.
Right.
So they're doing that, and they're trying to get as many as they can of males from each family name, and they're looking for certain like things that I don't fully understand the science of, but like little bits that can trace you to like where your ancestors were from at one point, right? Because the way 23andMe and all those do is they're like, okay, you're 20% Irish, 20% Scottish, 40% British,
Right.
right? It's like you can't, there's no DNA to say that like a Scot and a Brit aren't the same, right?
Right, yeah, and
Especially
that's-
as they're both Gaelic Celts.
And like,
A Scot and a
okay,
a Scot and a Welsh. You do a Scot and a Welsh?
Yes.
You would get different because the Welsh is a Brythonic Celt.
right.
So it would be different enough, but like it's still not like it's not based off of anything.
Right.
Like there's no DNA that says, oh, you're Scottish. It's more like you have
This is where
Norman, you have
Right.
Pictish, you have Gaelic, you have this. You're probably from
this section of the place, right?
Right.
So it's more like that. That's how it should be anyway. Whereas they're just like, you're Scottish. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like, what is Scottish?
Yeah, and this is it. Is that it's not a definite. You are this. It's you come from this general area that.
Yeah, and they're not even like doing. I know that there is like bone DNA stuff that you can do to see like based off of diet and other stuff where you probably lived, right? That one is also not what these are doing, right?
Oh, no.
So it's not like, oh, I'm testing your bones to know where your
Right.
ancestors are from. It's like, no, that's not a thing. But the Manx one, the Manx study is like looking for specific ones that do trace back,
Okay.
because we're made up of all of our ancestors' DNAs, right? Like they're all
Right.
in there.
Right.
I don't know how there's only like 45 or whatever chromosomes, but they're all there.
Right.
And so there is a lineage to see, kind of like the family tree, but as again, they're just doing the name. It's just the direct one, and they know how to do that. So they're looking for those things, and they're finding, their study is to find roughly when that each family line, like of the original families,
Yeah.
moved to the Isle, because I'm not sure if there was like whatever the British indigenous folks were before the Celts. I know that there's reports saying there were some, but nobody has any
Yeah.
idea
Yeah.
what they were or where.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure that there was any on the Isle. But the Brythonic Celts moved first to like the southern part of England, air quotes, for you Welsh, don't worry. So they moved there, and then they fractured a little bit, and I think Cornish folks are Brythonic too, so some went that way.
Right. Yeah.
The Proto-Wales folks stayed there, and a good many went over to the Isle. And so a lot of my ancestors, just from the my mom's grandparents, are like 3 out of 4 are Brythonic Celt. The other one is Dane, from when the Vikings came over. Because, as you know,
Yeah.
Vikings is a misnomer. If it's only a Viking if they're ravaging and pillaging, right?
Right.
If they're going and settling and pillaging and all that fun stuff there, right? Because they do that, but
Right.
if they set up camp, they're
Yeah.
just Danes.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Right.
so yeah, I have some Dane in me as well, which is pretty cool. And I have saved some of the other family line names that I know. I just haven't read it yet because life's been chaotic. But
Right.
so like that one is a little better, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're looking for specific things, right? If you're just trying to be like, oh, you might have Ashkenazi Jew or however that's pronounced because I'm
I
horrible.
think it's correct how you said it. Yeah. As pronounced.
So you can't like just be like, oh, that's you, like
Yeah.
just from like what a mouse swab.
Yeah. Yeah.
Plus, all the legal and privacy parts of these tests
Yeah.
are not like it's all up in the air.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's
They have like the rights to your stuff, and they haven't decided what they're gonna do with it yet.
right.
So it's like, whoa. But yeah, that was my little rant about DNA.
Well, I mean, this is the thing now, is that if anyone goes to commit a crime in my family now, if they leave behind any sort of DNA.
Well, I don't
Then-
know if 23andMe
If-
gives it to like police officers and stuff.
Right.
Like, it could eventually get to that point where they have like to cross a border, to go on a plane, do anything, you have to give your DNA.
Oh,
Like-
God, that's
I know, that's a nightmare.
that. Yeah.
That's
dystopian.
yeah, that's very dystopian.
Uh.
But like, our world is very dystopian right now in
Yeah,
general, and we're just kind of like teetering, waiting to see what November brings us on the dystopia levels.
Do you want to talk about that?
No,
okay.
not too much.
No. Okay.
But like, it could go worse. Like our dystopia could go worse, and it's just yeah. Two of my roommates are poli-sci students,
Oh God.
and one of them wants to do a watch party for it in November, and I was like, no, not in my house, not in my house, no,
You can't. No.
Go to one of your rooms.
I know last time it was me, Joe, and Noel. We did a watch party 4 years ago. And CBC had like a nice, beautiful setup for it too, and whatever, and it was great. But we thought,
We thought she won? Because I did. I went and double checked before
No.
I went to bed, and I was like, oh, look.
No,
Look, she has more votes. I go back, and then it's like, wait, what?
No, we stayed up and watched the whole thing, so we knew. But no, we thought like at the beginning, like, oh, she's gonna win, and I've said this so many times, but there's a point when Pennsylvania flipped, and like that's when I got like a giant pit in my stomach, like, oh no.
Yeah, I had to avoid it. I only went like when they were in, but I'm not sure if the Electoral College had decided yet or not when I first went and looked. And I was like, okay. So she won, right? And then we were like, no, Electoral College. What the frick is that? And so that's when Meghan got US Politics 101. And yeah, and then I was just like shell shocked. And I remember being in so I was just a note taker in Sheila's class. I wasn't even a student. And I had to literally clamp my hand over my ears and go, la 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 la, I'm not listening, because it was just too much.
Right.
You know Sheila, she's great, but she doesn't mind going off on rambles about modern politics.
Right,
Especially him at that time.
Yeah.
She was like, I'm so sure he has dementia, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I was like, okay, I can't handle this conversation, and I'm low-key getting paid to be here, so can we stop?
Yeah.
But then in our class right after that, I'll say like a few things.
Right.
I said the thing about Harambe, which has proven to be fake, because you couldn't know that soon if people actually wasted their vote on Harambe.
Yeah.
Simpler times though. And then I just like shut you all down.
Yeah.
And it was only during break, because it was a 3-hour class, where it was just me and Bruce in the classroom, and I allowed us to talk a bit more about like our fears for the queer community and such. And then I think I just started beating something randomly, like, because I'm an Indigenous beater, right?
Oh, okay. I thought you said beat. Sorry.
No, beating. Bead work.
Okay, sorry.
And then I just started beating, and I was like I just kind of let spirit guide me, and I did 2 little hearts, kind of like interlocking, and then I did, I think, the medicine wheel and rainbow colors and such, and I gave it to a friend who actually paid for it, but I named it Love Wins, because we were still, trying to be hopeful and such, because that was the only way we could survive.
Yeah.
By being hopeful. So, yeah, it's been a few fun years. I still to this day cannot watch American Horror Story Cult.
No.
I'm not even American. And like, it's just like, I know it's American Horror Story, so it's not real.
No.
Because like there's murderous clown things or whatever.
Those were real though.
I mean,
remember?
We did get those, but this was to the extreme.
Okay.
Ours were just threatening and menacing.
Okay.
Theirs were actually murderous. But it was just, there's so much of the rest of the fallout from his election that like, when it first came out, I think it came out the year after. So I was like, this is way too soon, and like, poor timing. And they were like, these are all these things that might happen. And I was like, no. I refused to watch it. I tried to watch it, I think, in 2018 or 2019.
Yeah.
And I was literally feeling like I was going insane.
Yeah.
Like, I was taking on all that anxiety, all that fear, and just like, it was affecting me.
Yeah.
And it was just too real, right? It's like, yes, sure, that's not happening yet, but who knows, right? It's like, that still could be, right? Like, the moment we had the Charlottetown thing, like, all bets were off. It's like, who knows what it's gonna be.
Right, like,
So yeah, it was just a lot.
Yeah.
And so November is daunting, and even in Canada, we might, if Bloc and PCs have their way, we might have another election, and that's gonna be fun.
Do you think that's possible? Like, do you think they're gonna try and push with what's his name in power, O'Toole?
I don't. So I think they're gonna try just for a re-election.
Mm.
Because Bloc's already said that they want it, right?
Okay.
And they'll do anything in their power to do it.
But what would they gain from that? So
I don't know what Bloc is thinking. My dad said something about how they might make a coalition with NDP, and I'm like,
never.
I was like, Jagmeet's not gonna join them, and they're not gonna accept Jagmeet until he apologizes for calling one of them racist, which he's not gonna do because they are.
Right. So.
So no.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I could see them joining up with the PC
Of course. Yeah.
to get this through, and then it's election, and it's like, no. Like, I can't handle 2 up in the air elections, and then 2, I'm saying it as 2, like, as it's gonna happen, but I don't necessarily, it doesn't. But, like, I can't handle 2 ultra-conservative parties.
Right.
Right? I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm already, like, at such a disadvantage and struggles with a liberal government.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, what's it gonna do? I've been an adult for only the end of Harper's reign,
Right.
right? So a lot of my adulthood has been under a liberal regime, and I mean, it's better because I'm not losing shit,
Mhm.
but it's also not ideal.
Right.
Because, like, so I don't fully blame Trudeau for the
No.
pipeline,
No.
because Harper set that up so it had to happen, or China would have got something. Like,
Mhm.
I think they would have got parts of Canada, which is insane. Like, I could be misread it,
Right.
but like that's what it looked like. So, but they were gonna get something, and so Trudeau had no other choice because it would have like cost Canada something
Okay.
really like priceless kind of thing. So I don't blame him for that,
Okay.
but obviously I'm not pro pipelines.
No.
Obviously, like, there's a lot of other stuff about that I'm just like, I hate it.
Right.
But I don't blame him for having to take the fall for something Harper set up.
Right, okay.
Harper did that very maliciously because I think he knew the elections were coming and he wanted to make sure it had to happen. But I really hate that Trudeau just like participates in these like marches in the climate action, and he takes a knee when when Black Lives Matter are at Parliament Hill. It's like, we're protesting against you. We're trying to protest to get you to do shit.
Right.
Do it. Do your job. We're protesting to make you do stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's stuff that's in everyone's best interest. Like, Black Lives Mattering helps every life matter, right? Like, people are like, all lives matter. It's like, no. All lives cannot matter until Black Lives Matter.
And this is something that I said in the very first podcast is, I don't trust the PCs, but that doesn't mean I trust the Liberals or the NDP either.
I do have more faith in the NDP because they've never been a federal, like, they've never won federally.
Right.
Right? But Ontario, right? Like, Bob Ray gets a lot of hate.
Right.
But, again, just like Harper set up stuff so Trudeau had to take the fall.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Ray came in with like a giant deficit, and he had to save lives and stuff because the conservatives before him had literally, by their cuts, had actually led to people's deaths.
Right. Yeah.
Right. It was really dark and brutal.
Did they not have the whole Walkerton incident?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Walkerton. Yeah. And so like he was given a steaming pile of shit.
Right.
And he did do really well. Like, I think a lot of people are mad about something he did education-wise, But other like
And I
that's
think-
the only thing I know.
Speaking about the North particularly, is he also took a lot of the money generated in the North and funneled it to Toronto. So I think it's particularly in Northern Ontario.
Yeah,
That's why they don't like him.
that's the Northern Ontario reason.
And
But
yeah, that
I
is.
only hear the Southern Ontario reasons,
Yeah.
and it's like okay, but also look at what he was doing, even with the money, right?
Mhm.
Like Ontario needs money.
Yeah.
So, like, it's kind of like when Alexander Hamilton was fighting with Jefferson about whether or not they're gonna have a national bank and debt thing, and they're like, oh, we don't have any taxes. Why should we pay? It's like, why don't you have any debt?
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of like that to me. Like,
Yeah.
certain times you have to, like, you'll have to piss off certain people, but if it's in the welfare of everyone else, and if it's only piss off, if it's only anger, discomfort,
And not-
stuff like that, so long as you're not putting people in actual jeopardy,
Right.
that's.
But I think that's the argument that a lot of conservatives people make, is that you're putting me in jeopardy, when you could debate whether or not they're actually being put in jeopardy. But
It's like the anti-tax the rich folks. It's like, oh, I can't afford to give up $1 million. It's like, you still have $99 billion. You're fine.
yeah, and that's it.
Calm down. But yeah, so like Bob Ray didn't have a lot of great reviews, but without Tommy, the founder of that party, we wouldn't have healthcare the way we do.
Right.
Which every province continues to attack. But like we wouldn't have what we do have for healthcare. We wouldn't have like some of our most important socialist stuff. And so like I do have some faith, right? And definitely, obviously, Jack Layton was my first hope and my very first election. I voted for him for his last one.
Right.
And I've voted federally NDP every time. I voted Liberal once for the provincial because the NDP only said that they would freeze tuition fees. They didn't say how, like, that they would increase their funding to universities, so universities wouldn't strap for cash, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it was like, no, that's not fixing the problem. So I was like,
No.
no, I can't let you do that. But every other time, I think I voted NDP
Yeah.
in my life. And I have more faith in them. Like, yes, they could still be the same monster in disguise, right? The thing is, too, though, we have to remember that provincial and federal parties of these groups are all different. So yes, BC's NDP Green Coalition is still the ones that are like Wet'suwet'en, right? They're the bane of Indigenous resistance right now. But their liberal prime minister before was actually a conservative. So like, it's strange, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I do have some hope, and NDP does have a good amount of Indigenous politicians throughout both federal and provincial, and like it gives you some hope, and also him being a racialized person, right, makes you feel like he actually does mean it when he says Black Lives Matter, and when he calls people racist. He's one of the only people in that room who's qualified to know what a racist is. And so it's like, yeah, call them racist. Tell them Black Lives Matter, right? Tell them Indigenous Lives Matter. All that stuff. So there's hope. But I also not expecting like a gold mine from them.
No.
Right? I'm just expecting more.
More. You're right.
That's so like, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's politics.
I don't know.
Yay.
Maybe I'm just more cynical, but I'm really more of I believe what I can see, and I mean you won't see them do anything unless they get into office, but
Yeah, it's definitely like be cautious even in your hopes.
yeah,
But I just can't keep voting on this two-party system.
Right.
We're not really a two-party system, but the way it's been
it's
forever has
and
been
especially
a two-party.
here in the East too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a two-party system for too long, even though it's not officially one. And I can't. I am a queer, two-spirit, indigenous, autistic, ADHD, femme, right? I have mental health problems on top of that. I can't survive if it gets worse, right? Like, I have a really nice place right now, but I'm paying a lot less than most rent is in Ottawa. And Ottawa is better than Toronto.
Right.
So, like, it's like, oh, it's better, but still not, it's not attainable. It's not sustainable. It's,
Right.
like, attainable because I couldn't even put down a first and last.
Right,
kind
and
of
that's
thing.
what I'm hearing
It's not
from.
sustainable because how much do I have to work how many jobs do I have to work to be able to afford a basic one bedroom?
That's actually something that you said that and sparked something. That's what I'm hearing from a lot of people our age now, is that they could afford a house. They could afford the payments on a house if it wasn't for the down payment. If it wasn't for, like, they could keep up the payments, but it's just that giant.
And that's just a portion of them because I'm really glad I'm going back to school so I don't have to worry about paying off my student loan
Right.
in October. But if I did have to, I can't afford my monthly payments because it's like 500 plus. I'm like,
Is for your minimum?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So I was on a repayment plan for disabled students,
Okay.
and then I was trying to re-update that
Okay.
when COVID happened, so everything, went pause.
Right.
And I just got an email actually today saying I had to contact them if I'm going back to school. And I was like, okay. I called their number twice, and I just got that busy, phone off the hook kind of sound. I was like, is there a different number?
Are you sure that's legitimate? Like, it's not some.
No, it was
Okay.
legit. Like, I called the number again from their website. Like, I called
Okay.
it from their website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But yeah, it was fun.
But still, a $500 minimum seems outrageous.
Not when you see that it's like $43,000.
Yeah.
6 years of undergrad, living in
Right.
residence for all of those.
Right.
Even though I went to Algoma, which is one of the cheaper schools in Ontario.
Right.
And then 1 year of grad school, which again, my grad school costs a lot less. Like, it's maybe half of what I had to pay for Algoma for a whole year.
Right.
But like, it's still a lot because
Right.
it's 7 years, and now I'm going back to do 8 and 9.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's gonna be fun,
Yeah.
but I can't say it on air because who knows who could listen. I do have a really cool plan that I'll tell you about later for how I'm gonna do some paying of it back.
Yeah.
It's nothing illegal. It's just uncouth.
Okay.
So it would be frowned upon by OSAP, but
Yeah. Hey, if it's not legal.
Lord can kiss my ass.
As long as it is legal. Yeah.
Yeah, it's legal.
Yeah.
It's all legal. Just because it's so messed up. Because if you don't need everything they give you and you return it, then they give you less the
Okay.
next time, and you might actually need that much,
Right.
right? So it's like it's kind of just that's my little nose hint for you about what it is.
Okay. Actually, the person that just moved out, they were contemplating. They just got into university in Montreal, and they were contemplating upon marrying a Quebecois friend just so they could get that half off their tuition at Quebecois residency.
Yeah, there was a period, I think it was January, where I wasn't like end of January, early February, because I think I was with Busher when I was trying to tell online,
Okay.
and then I was calling for a few weeks after that. But on NSLSC or whatever their acronym is,
Right.
it says if you have a single like payment of like the assistant repayment plan, that you can't get a new loan. And I was like, okay, but I'm in the disabled one.
Mm.
What's the rules for that? And there was
Right.
nothing online.
Uh-huh.
I had to call, and I don't know how I got a person eventually, but I called like many times, and there's not an easy way to just get that person.
Mm.
And I finally called, and they're like, oh no, it's fine. For disabled, it's fine.
Okay.
But in that whole period of panic,
Right.
I was like, am I gonna have to enlist? Am
Yeah.
I gonna have to go be an officer and serve in like the archives somewhere in Ottawa or wherever they have their archives?
Yeah.
I don't know much about that part of the military. I was like, am I gonna have to enlist so I can go to grad school? Because I already had applied to go back. Because I
Right.
applied, I think early, the early, whatever, there's like an early bird kind of admission date you have to get in before.
Right.
That was like January 15th.
Yeah.
So I had applied.
Yeah.
It was not fun.
No.
It's like, God dang it, I actually might have to be in the army. Ah. And I should be clear, I support veterans.
Yeah.
And don't support the military complex.
Mm-hmm.
I do recognize the need for a defense,
Mm.
right?
Right.
Like, that was the one and only, like, really good thing about standing armies becoming a thing, right? Is that we have defense,
Right.
but it's so much more than that, and so much money goes into it, and it's like, it's just like, no, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
It. I don't know. It depends on like one hand, yes, it's good that we have our army for defense, and the problem with everything, especially everything that the government does, is it's such a bureaucratic nightmare, and there's so much money that gets filtered out and gets lost in the paperwork, and you don't know where it all goes, and there's, it's like trying to fill a bathtub with a colander.
Yes.
There's so much money that just gets lost in.
Yeah, because Army gets so much funding, right? That's just a given.
Mm-hmm.
We might not give as much as the states do, but we still
Yeah.
a good, like, maybe proportional size goes there. Cadets is included in the giant budget for
really?
Army. Yeah, because they are Army. Like, if you do cadets, you will be drafted first. If conscription comes back. So cadets are the same. They're included in there.
Mm.
It is so hard to get uniforms for our cadets. I spent the last year volunteering with my local artillery, cadets, and I was the assistant quartermaster. At first, I thought I was really going to be like assistant to the quartermaster, but no, I was just second in charge. I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
And so quartermaster is the person who dresses the soldiers and such. We're also in charge of like basic storage of supplies and such. But
Right. Yeah.
the primary job is dress your troops, and cadets are our troops. And we had so much trouble, like before COVID, obviously, of getting like supplies and other stuff, because they do this weird point system, and they only give you a certain amount of points, and then you can run out of them. And it's like, we literally had had to find boots other ways.
Oh.
I'm not, yeah. So like, it was like we had to go outsource military boots.
Okay.
And it's like, where's the, like I know it's cadets, so it gets less.
Right.
But like, it's the Army.
Right.
Like, and there's just so many, like, things about, like, just the supply chain for
Mhm.
the Army. And then, like, they'd issue a new, like, dress regiment kind of thing, like, so everyone went from having to be in their formals to being in their, combats.
Oh.
So we had returning and new cadets,
Mm.
like, lined up, meeting and waiting for their combats. And it's just like a lot. And it's chaotic. And it was just like, plus, when they say that like a badge is, they changed the badge design, so the old ones have to like come off and you
Yeah.
replace it. You have to use your points for those new badges, and the old ones, they're just like garbage now.
Okay.
Like, it's like you could at least like have a thing where like, yes, we have to buy our new ones, but you have it on record and we give you our old ones and you like give us back some money for those, how many as we gave back kind of thing.
Yeah, but even when you're making something like that's mandatory. Like I understand that the kind of
Well,
necessity.
everything in cadets uniform is mandatory.
Yeah.
So paying for all of it already is a lot. But like, so like I'm not necessarily, like I don't know enough of their logistics for that, but like to just throw out these old badges and epaulets and stuff, it's just like, this is a waste.
Yeah.
Like, I know you can't really recycle badges and stuff, but like, come on.
Yeah.
There's gotta be a better way to do this.
Right. Yeah.
Like, yeah, so that was fun too.
Yeah.
We've talked about everything.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Yeah.
That's how it usually goes.
I will apologize if I'm really quiet throughout this because my little voice thingy looks like it's really small.
Low talker.
I'm just, I can project, but not when something's literally in my face,
What?
apparently. So,
It's I get it, especially like you're. Is this your first time like speaking through like a mic or?
speaking, yes.
Okay.
I have recorded audio
Yeah.
for like singing.
Okay.
It was a field trip.
Ah.
But speaking, yes, this is my first time, and I also like really intimidated my first time anytime I'm on a new like video app or any of those for like, you know, COVID times.
Yeah.
I get really nervous. But it's like it's right in my face, so like it
Right.
probably is that training of like, don't use your outdoor voice when somebody's that close to you, right? So like, it's probably that.
Maybe yeah. It's just the more you do it, the more you get used to it. And like I'm not saying like oh I'm super used to it now,
No.
but like I've done it enough now where I feel like I don't notice it as much.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like especially when I first got the setup and was just like trying it out, figuring everything out, and like that there I was definitely very uncomfortable with it. So,
Yeah.
but I forced myself to.
But yeah, you've
Use
also
it.
been doing it, so you are
Right.
getting used to it.
Right.
But you might not be like an expert at it yet.
Absolutely not.
But they say that
It's-
takes like what 1,000 hours to become an expert, so
Right.
it's fine.
And I think I don't know. Depending on how long this episode goes, I might be at like 10, 15
There you
hours of
go.
content.
You got 10% towards being an expert, and I have
There you go.
1.
Right. Yeah. So, that's it.
So yeah, but yeah, it's also just nice to see you because
It's nice to see you too.
we're living in the same city
Yeah.
again.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, we haven't lived in the same city since 2017.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I graduated.
Yeah.
And then I came and visited 2019.
Right.
messed up my ankle at your house.
To be fair, it wasn't my fault.
No, it wasn't anybody's fault. It was my own fault, and I was still sober. And I remained sober because of it.
No, okay. To be fair, you were walking down a set of stairs in our place that was very narrow and fairly,
It was dark at the bottom, so that was where I forgot how many stairs there were.
Yeah.
And I just, like, missed, like, 2.
Right.
And somehow that happened in March.
Right.
I was still a little wobbly at the beginning of, like June 8th.
Yeah.
I was still wobbly.
Yeah.
So, like, I was really scared, too, because I was, June 8th, I was fitting, like, the final fitting for my bridesmaid dress for my dad's wedding.
Right.
And I had my heels on because I had my heels on for the first fitting.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know if I can wear heels in 21 days or not.
Oh, jeez.
And I just left it, and I was able to wear heels. But yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah, so haven't seen each other really since 2019, I guess.
Yeah.
So, and then 2020 has been like 5 years crammed into one, so.
Yeah, so it just seems
so. It's really been a long time.
Right, yeah. Oh, jeez.
But yeah, it's been, yeah. Life is very fun.
Yeah, that's actually one thing that me and the last podcast guest that I had, Andrew, we talked about. It's just like how the time flies and like everything changes. And
like, I remember growing up, our parents would talk about how like time goes by faster when you're older, and you're like, no, that's ridiculous. Time doesn't change. Yes, it does.
Yeah.
It also changes and goes faster when it's a pandemic.
Yeah.
And you're stuck inside for a good month and a bit.
Oh,
it's like,
geez.
oh, you wanted to enjoy spring? Yeah. No. You wanted to enjoy summer? It's a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
You're welcome. But it's weird because the pandemic also makes it feel like it's dragged on forever, right?
Yeah.
We're like all those memes, like it's like what are you gonna do for August? What are you gonna do for September? Right? It's like I'm still processing February.
Right. Yeah.
Right? So like we're like behind and also super fast.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting. And if I was like a metaphysical thinker, I could be all, oh, let's go and look into why this is. But the more meta and existential something becomes, the harder it is for me to process, and the
existentialism is never fun.
And the larger my existential fears grow.
Right.
Like, I can't think about how big the universe is. Like, I can go to our galaxy, and I can think about other systems in our galaxy, but I'm also, like, more doing that as, like, the same way that you're like, yeah, there's, like, a couple hundred people at this event, and there's, like, 1,000 or something, right? It's, like, it's on a smaller scale, and it's very different than, like, when I go bigger and, right? But on the reverse, I also can't go into the teeny tinies. It's like, I know we're made up of atoms. I know that atoms.
Yeah.
And I know mitochondria. But other than that, like, if I go, like, even watching Ant-Man, when he goes that tiny thing, that was a little hard.
Really?
It was like, no, this is too much. Like, because there's, like, something that tried to eat him at some point.
Yeah.
And he's, like, super duper non-existent tiny.
You're right.
So it's like, no, don't tell me things exist like that. Dust mites are scary enough. And
the one thing I'd say to that is, like, okay, that's a Marvel movie. If I'm walking into... but me personally, at least, if I'm walking into a Marvel movie, I'm shutting my mind off anyways. Like, it's not...
I literally couldn't watch the movie Gravity because being lost aimlessly in space is my most existential fear.
Yeah.
And it was before that. I was like, why did they make a movie about my fear? Because I already had it. I was like, why? I was like, no, I'm not seeing that. I'm not seeing that ever.
Right.
I will watch Interstellar,
Yeah.
which gets into the metaphysical stuff and freaks me out,
Right.
but it's just normal space travel stuff.
Yeah, it's not.
It's like, yeah, he's lost in space, but he's lost in space in a normal,
Yeah.
like, he's in a ship. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
He's not drifting aimlessly,
Yeah.
just waiting to die.
What about? Did you ever watch Futurama much?
Yeah.
Did you remember the one episode where Bender gets lost in space?
Oh yeah, and then he has like a little like civilization on his butt.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that. I think because it's all comedy and he's a robot.
Right.
That didn't bother me as much.
Right. Yeah.
But I have had this fear since like forever. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why. And so knowing that on the genetic level, our fears are like survival based, right?
Mhm.
That makes it make sense,
Right.
right? It's like, oh, I would be drifting aimlessly until I die.
Right.
But when am I gonna go into space?
I mean, yeah, that's one thing too. But-
I won't be able to afford Elon's gross thing.
Right.
I probably don't qualify for space travel through any other channel.
Yeah.
It's like, when am I gonna go into space?
But
When is
I mean-
that actually gonna be a reality for me?
But I mean, okay, two things to that. First of all, yeah, sure, but there could have been people back in the 1880s who are thinking, oh, we'll never have flight. Like, I'm never gonna get into one of those planes. Like, we're not. Who knows what the
Yeah,
next?
but some of those 1890 folks were right. They never got on a plane.
Maybe not, but who knows what the next couple of decades will hold? Where we might just be, they might have a colony on Mars, and we're going back and forth there for work every day, but because rent on Earth is still cheaper.
But yeah, but like even like just looking at like who actually did fly in planes
Right.
that would have been around in 1890s, you don't go like you don't get a lot of people. Right?
No,
you
okay.
you have First World War pilots.
Right.
You have
Uh,
a few like the starting of air travel is in the between war era.
Right.
But it really takes off after World War II.
Right. So
By that point, you
Okay.
won't really have people from 1890s. Not even if they were
Well-
like you'd have a few from the born in 1890s, but that's
Well, that's only a difference of 60 years. I mean, you're still. I mean, okay,
That's-
yes, you're
like
you
the-
have lived a life,
yeah.
but it still I would still say that I'd still say that qualifies as within your lifetime, and
But you'd have like me, like even if within 60 years people are going to space more, when am I?
yeah.
Poor, broke, $43,000 in student debt going to space.
What if they build a prison colony on Mars?
I hope to not go to prison colonies either, okay?
And then if you're such an unremitted debtor,
Oh my god.
they send you to
At the moment
New
I'm
Australia, Mars.
like, do you know how happy I am sometimes that we don't send people to jail for debt anymore?
Oh yeah, like that.
Right, like yeah, IRS comes in the States and they do shit,
Right.
but like the CRA also is not aggressive at all.
Not like that. No.
But it's also that's tax money
Right.
because you haven't paid your dues.
Right.
Right? It's not about, oh, you owe this people money, you owe this people money,
Mhm.
you're gonna go to jail.
Right.
Right? We don't have debtor's jail anymore.
No.
I mean, it costs money for some reason to go bankrupt, but
Mhm.
other than that, right?
Right.
So, like, I'm so glad we don't have debtor's jail. And I would literally, I'd be on the front lines if there was ever a politician in Canada that tried to bring it back. I would.
Yeah.
I would, because, like, that is total class warfare.
Yeah,
Total
but-
race warfare. Total, like, every ism warfare.
But no politician would ever. If things get that bad, we have much worse problems. But
Yes. If they get that bad,
There's-
there's a lot worse. But if it gets
to a degree where that's the most outwardly worst thing that they're doing, right? Then yeah, I'll be on the front lines.
Yeah.
Because that's too much.
Right.
Right? It's like, no, you don't need your money that bad. It's all made up.
Yeah. The other point I wanted to make with the floating in space thing is that there's this theory I heard about a while ago is where like a lot of these fears that we have is like from our ancestors and it comes to us through our DNA. Whereas like, you know, if say you have, you know, you or like you have this line through your family of people who are afraid of spiders. Well, there might have been.
I literally have arachnophobia,
Yeah.
like to the degree I should go to therapy for it.
Really?
Yeah.
So yeah, so there might be like an ancestor in maybe your lineage that either had a lot of interactions, unfavorable interactions with spiders, or died from.
The thing is, I don't think it necessarily has to be a specific like they interact with stuff, because it's the survival, right?
Right.
It's snakes and spiders and heights are dangerous.
Right. Oh yes.
So we know they're dangerous, and we are afraid of them, and
Right,
we
yeah.
continue on to be afraid of them because we're passing down our genes. And you know, the saying of survival of the fittest is actually only half true, right? It's like, yeah, survival of the fittest in hunting and in some of that stuff and speed,
Right.
but it's also predominantly survival of the scariest. The ones who are like taking less chances and doing all this other stuff. And I've actually seen a few things where people think that that might be one of the reasons why we have a lot of people with like anxieties, like anxiety disorders, right?
Right. Yeah.
Like because we've inherited all these DNAs of our ancestors again, that of people who are scared all the time, surviving, fighting to be alive, especially when you actually go into just your modern history and you have racialized or colonized ancestors who increase that, right? So we have all that fear because of that, and then it manifests as anxieties because we're not fighting or flighting, right? And like there's actually two others. It's not just fight and flight, it's freeze and fawn. And fawn, I don't know like if fawn was a thing that existed back in the day. Freezing did, because you either fight, flight, or freeze, and you have like the same likelihood of dying for fighting and fleeing, but you have 100% chance of dying of freezing, right?
Right, yeah.
But it's a thing that happens.
Right. Yeah.
Right? But fawning, I think, this is just me, non-sociology, non-psych major person, hypothesis that fawning is a way of taking those anxieties and using them, right? Because it's like, it comes out more in people interactions, but it's like if somebody like spills something on you and then they just like apologize 1,000 times and they're all up in your business trying to dry you off, right?
Joe spilled something.
There you go. Joe's our fawner, right? So like, yeah, that's fawning, right?
Yeah.
But it can be done to much bigger extremes. But yeah, fighting and flighting, right? Like, you have a 50% chance of dying with you fighting, right? I would say you still have a 50% chance with running away, but that depends on who you're running away from.
Yeah.
Apex predator, 50.
Yeah.
Just a normal person without a throwing weapon, less.
You're right. Yeah.
But yeah, so we inherited all the fears and such, and they manifest, like there's the ones that manifest clear, straightforward, snakes, spiders, heights, dogs, stuff like that,
Clowns.
right? I mean, yes, clowns. Yes, clowns are very logical. It's amazing we're not afraid of Mickey Mouse.
I was just thinking theme park mascots.
Yeah. So like we inherit those fears, and they manifest in us throughout, like through the normal ways, but then through anxieties, and then
because we're not even dying of arachnids and snakes and heights at the rate we were. We get existential fears that will never happen to us, like floating aimlessly in space. I'm trying to think what my other really existential fear is. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even think of it right now. But like, I know I have a few.
Yeah, of course.
And I just can't, but I also, like, if it's just too meta, I just can't understand things too, because, like, I need at least real life examples. So I had to research what ontology means.
Okay.
Okay, so metaphysics as a thing is like an umbrella term, right?
Right.
There's metaphysics. And then it's its own thing, because so many things are named for their umbrella term.
Right.
And then there's ontology.
Right.
Metaphysics is like what goes on in the world, like what the world is made up of, right? So this is how I understood it. I found something and explained it beautifully. Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth, okay?
Okay.
Metaphysics of Middle Earth has magic, has like that, like magic is there, that's clear, straightforward, good and evils. But obviously, we know as there's men that there would still be a lot of gray.
Okay.
So you have magic. That's the way everything goes, right?
Okay.
That's the fabric of reality.
Okay.
Ontology is the rules of things. So that's where you
Okay.
get wizards, elves, hobbits, orcs, goblins, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ontology of it. So
Okay.
that's like stuff that makes it, right? And I was
Okay.
like, oh, okay. Yeah, thanks for explaining it like I'm a nerd, because I am. I'm not the right kind of nerd to know what ontology is on my own, but I'm the right kind to know
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings. So I'm like, yes, thank you. But yeah. Yeah, so it's really hard. Also just abstract things. Like, I can't do math in my head.
No.
I can be really good at math and really good at music theory, because that's math. But if I'm not getting it, I'm not getting it until someone breaks it down and like does that whole like explain like I'm five thing, right?
Okay.
And so in high school, I would only do my math homework when I didn't get it, right? Because like my teacher explained it, but I just gotta work it out, right?
Okay.
And then music theory, if I didn't get it, I'd have a friend tutor me, right? To the point where once I processed it, understood it, I didn't even remember what I didn't know.
Okay.
Like, within a month, I'd be like, what was it I didn't know?
Yeah.
It's like, I know it all now. I don't know it now. But like,
Yeah.
in that month, I'd be like, oh, I know it all now. I can't remember what it was.
Right.
And so, I actually have that same struggle right now with learning aspects in astrology.
Okay.
And as aspects is like the whole shebang for transitional parts of astrology, which is where you take your birth chart and then you take what's currently in the skies and you read off of that.
Okay.
I can't do that. So I didn't learn like houses, planets, signs, and I learned a little bit about some of the aspects, but I can't do much with them.
Yeah.
And then I kind of forgot some of it, so I'm relearning bits and pieces, but
Okay.
unless I get a tutor
Yeah.
for astrology, I'm not gonna learn aspects.
No.
But yeah.
No. No. I know. Just thinking about that is like I've had a lot of problems with like learning languages. Is that like that? I don't know if it's just how I'm wired, in that I can only understand the language I was raised in, English, or if it's like doing so in Ontario at least, mandatory French all through elementary school, and then 1 year of
4 years of elementary school.
4 years.
Yeah.
Really?
Grade 4 to grade 8.
Oh, okay.
That's the mandatory. There's other schools that might do differently, but
Okay.
it's not.
Because I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know, my school at least, I'm pretty sure at least from, like,
You were from Northern Ontario, where
Right.
Blind River's francophone population just down the road. So
possibly, actually, that might be
yeah.
the reason.
Your-
Okay.
Your school board might have done differently because of
Okay.
where you are.
Oh, okay.
But the mandatory province-wide is 4 to 8.
Only 4 to 8. Okay.
Yeah, and then there's French immersion classes, and then there'll be schools
Right.
that do differently,
Yeah.
and then there's schools that offer Anishinaabe Moen, and there's like a lot of differences, but
Right.
that's the provincial requirement in Ontario, 4 to
Okay.
8.
Okay, so then, yeah, so that, okay, provincially then, elementary school, at least 4 years, French, and then 1 year of a language class in high school. Depending on what they offer. Mine, of course, only offered
French?
Yeah, yeah. So I had 9 years of French, and like that couldn't beat it into me. Like I did just enough that I could get past it. And then I took 1 year of Spanish at Algoma. And I did great in the first half. The second half I faltered.
Yeah.
But
Some people would say it's because you still had a Latin-based
Right.
language class in you, so
Okay.
some of the groundwork was there. I don't necessarily buy that
No.
because I only did 6 years of French.
Right.
I did choose to do a second year of French in high school because in grade, I think it was grade 9, we had to do French still at my school. But then grade 10 and 11, you can take Spanish and such.
okay.
I think that's it. I might have munched it up a bit. But anyways, I elected to take a second year of high school French.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized that I can read French.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily understand it.
Right, yeah.
I can speak French. I can't do an accent though, but I can speak French. But again, I'm like, so. Like, I still know how to ask for help finding a washroom.
Right.
Où est la toilette?
Yeah.
Right? I still know how to, like, basic manners, s'il vous plaît, merci beaucoup. But, like, I don't know a lot. And I did 6 years.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. But then, so my retention of Spanish is not as good as it was. But I
Yeah.
also did 2 years of Spanish. And I excelled at that. I still had the same thing with reading. Like,
Yeah.
I'm reading these words, I'm processing them, I can say them out loud. I'm not retaining what this book is about.
Right.
Right? But yeah, I don't even know, I kind of stopped saying that English is, like, I don't speak English. I don't speak English. I recently had, like, an epiphany.
Yeah.
I don't speak English the same way that the aliens from season 5, episode 2 of Next Generation don't, Shaka when the walls fell, right? They're speaking English because the translators change it to English.
Okay.
They're speaking in metaphors and allusions and
Okay.
similes and all that other stuff. And that's what I do. I go off on tangents to
Right.
explain something.
Right.
Like, I can only remember this one example. I did a tarot reading for a friend, also Algoma alumni.
Okay.
And he got the Chariot, which one of my favorite ways to talk about it is either Jesus take the wheel.
Okay.
Well, like, it's kind of like Jesus take the wheel, but it's like, oh. But the good one is more like Jesus take the gas pedal. I got the steering, right? Something
Okay.
like that. But there is another one where it's that line about it's not the destination, it's the journey,
Right.
stuff like that. And
Okay.
I couldn't remember that exact phrase,
Okay.
so I referenced Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. It's like, look at all the stuff that happens before they get to their destinations,
Right.
because that's what you need to focus on, right?
And not the whole thing where Gandalf could have just put them on an eagle straight. I
There's
don't.
a theory. That was Gandalf's plan once they crossed that mountain.
Oh, okay.
That the mountain was the only thing that blocked them because, yeah, the eagles take them to Rivendell?
I honestly don't know.
Riverdale. River is Game of Thrones. Rivendell. They take them to Rivendell after they won. But that's also because the evil's defeated, that they can go that way, right? Maybe they couldn't get that far once, because Sauron and Solomon and whatever their faces' names are.
The only reason why I even remember any of this is because there's this old sketch comedy show I like to watch called Whitest Kids You Know.
Oh wow!
And there's this one sketch they did where they come back from everything and they start beating the shit out of Gandalf. It's like, why did you do this to us when you could have just...
Yeah, but there's a theory though that he was originally going, like, that was his plan, because he gets saved from the eagles, right? When he's at Isengard, the butterfly takes his message to the eagles and he gets saved. But, like, we don't know for sure if they took him to Rivendell, right? They might have just taken him to something, Rivendell, whatever. They might have just taken him to somewhere else, right? Yeah. And then he recuperated and then went there. But yeah, he could have had the intention to go around the mountain, because first he wasn't going to go through it, and then have a spot where he like sends up a flare of some sort and they come and help and they get him closer to, because again, freaking evil eye's active. You can't actually just fly across Mordor, right? Like, you literally cannot simply fly across Mordor.
Yeah.
Because he will see you, and he has flying Nazguls and all that other stuff. So, like, no. But they could have got closer, too, as a party of 9. Yes.
Okay.
Maybe they even just might have taken them to Lothlorien. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah. So I had to talk about it in that way.
Okay.
And I had to reference Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings adventuring to get to, like, it's like, that's your destination, but
right, yeah.
it's the journey.
Yeah.
And so I think I talk like those aliens.
I gotta say, there's very few times when I can look at one of my friends and say, I am not as big of a nerd as I thought I was.
My parents are nerds.
Yeah.
I was, like, destined to become a nerd and a historian based off my parents. So, yeah. I also could go off on a tangent about Sith Jar Jar, but...
Yeah.
but that would be really contested.
Yeah.
Though I support it. It's my headcanon. It's my headcanon that
Really?
they cut it because of the reaction to Jar Jar. But that's just my headcanon.
Jeez. Were you there? Again, this is just a random flashback memory. Do you remember... You obviously remember French Joe.
Yes.
Okay. So to try and... Yes, we have a mutual friend,
Yes.
Joseph Fikowski.
Yes, he's Joe, and
Yeah.
then there's Ginger Joe, and then there's French Joe.
Right.
I used to just call him Fanny Pack Kid, though. For an obvious reason of him wearing a fanny pack in the years 2012 or so, 2013. Basically, I know fanny packs are coming back, but this wasn't that.
This wasn't that. So, it was... Oh, and there's this other guy, and I'm blanking on his name, and I know him, and I shouldn't blank on his name.
Okay.
I don't know if you know him, though.
Is it Riley?
Was that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think so. So do you know what I'm talking about now?
I don't think I was in the class because I never met him.
No, it wasn't. No, not Riley Elder.
Okay.
No.
Then who was it?
I think his name might have been Riley. I'm sorry if it's not, but just another Riley.
Okay.
But so this was out of class. This was in the library. The day before, I'm not a big Star Wars fan. I only the first Star Wars movie I saw was Episode 7.
Okay, well that's heartbreaking. Why
Yeah.
are we friends?
What?
Why are we friends?
I don't know.
How are we friends?
So,
It's Algoma, that's why small pickings.
yeah. So day before I was in the cab, and I saw Joe, and every time you see Joe, you gotta talk to him. That's so.
He's so interesting.
Yes.
Like, I hate his brother just because we got into a fight about blurred lines, that song. And I was
Okay.
like, it's like blurred lines of consent.
Oh.
That's literally what the title is.
Yeah.
And he likened it to Goodbye Earl by the Dixie Chicks. And I was like, you know what? If that song did encourage women to do that, they're killing abusive husbands.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not gonna say like.
There's a difference between
I'm
encourage.
not gonna say like that I don't support that.
Right.
But yeah, but Joe's always interesting, always something interesting to say.
Right.
Sometimes it's a little out there, but like,
Yeah.
good person, Joe.
Yeah. And so I think it was around the time that I'd seen episode 7. And we'd gotten onto the conversation about he was the one and only Star Wars fan that I ever met who enjoyed the prequels more. Not even just that he enjoyed the prequels in general.
I enjoy the prequels.
Yeah.
I don't like watching episode 3 just because of the heartbreak.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm that kind of an emotional person that I just go,
No, and see, that's where you and me differ too. Is there were that emotional heartbreak is what gets like.
That gets you.
That I
that
love
gets
it.
you through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
For
That's.
me, like, I think it's kind of like okay, so I wouldn't ever read it now, but like back in the day, I used to say if J.K. created a series about the Marauders, then I would read it.
Okay.
But I would also be like so filled with like emotion because
How
I know how everybody, like, I don't know how Remus dies because nobody does.
No.
But like I know everyone's fate.
Right.
Right? And then she'd introduce somebody who I know their fate. Right? Like any of the Bones, right? Neville's parents, all
Right.
that stuff. And
Yeah.
it's just like when I know what's happening, like
Yeah.
what's gonna happen, it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I don't even watch the Leonardo Romeo and Juliet past a certain point.
Right.
Because I'm just like, no.
You
No.
can't.
I'm like, I don't watch the Titanic either.
Yeah.
Past a certain point, I'm like, no. I know what happens. I'm good. I'm just watching this for the good parts.
But see, like that's where like the sad thing, like I don't know what's wrong with me. Where that's
A
what
lot of other people do. That's why people watch these movies over and over.
that's what I enjoy.
I just opt
Like,
out of it when I can sometimes.
yeah.
But yeah, so
Yeah.
I like them. I don't
But yeah,
love them more, but I also don't hate them.
okay.
I don't even clearly hate Jar Jar.
Right.
I hate what he became
Okay.
because he didn't even really he was really useless in the last 2 of his movies.
Yeah.
Right? So like it's like, ugh, like if you're gonna introduce him, like do something with him.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And then I don't hate the new ones.
No.
I understand a lot of critique.
Mm-hmm.
I understand, and I'm right there with most people about Ryan Johnson.
Okay.
But I like what I got.
Mm.
Right? I like
Okay.
it enough. Right? Like, yeah, sure, it's weird about the whole snow thing, but
Okay.
it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
See, I don't know. Okay, to put my critique out there, so I watched episode 7 first. I thought it was a good movie. Like I didn't have anything, but then I watched episode 4, and it's like, oh, they're the same movie. Like,
Yes.
I think that's it.
That was a thing. I did, like,
So I think maybe I enjoyed
if
7
JJ
more.
If JJ was in charge of 8,
Yeah.
I feel like it being 7 being just 4 2.0 would
Yeah.
have made sense.
Okay.
Like, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Right, obviously, you can't ever know. But like, I felt like, because there was just enough stuff that was different, that I was like, this is all kind of important. It's kind of important that at the beginning, Ray's story is the same.
Okay.
To a degree, right? Like,
Right.
to me, it was like, this feels like it's important.
Yeah, and then
but
that can be an
but then-
importance.
Episode 8, Ryan Johnson did it,
Yeah.
so who knows what actually would have been. And then JJ had to do a lot of retcon in 9 without making it look like he's doing retcon,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah. Yeah, so that's it. Yeah, that can be an important storytelling tool. Is kind of retreading to a degree.
yeah, because there's like if it was originally JJ's plan for Ray to be Luke's daughter, right? Her story resembling at certain points his and Leia's makes sense.
Right.
Right? Because it's like, what is it? Ghost of the Father or something like that. It's a trope where without knowing it, you go through the same things as your parents, right?
Right, yeah.
Like, that would have been really cool, right? Like, but the way I think it could have gone, it would have been done by 8, because she's already done she's done those bits.
Right.
She's already at Dagobah. She doesn't have to do that again,
Right.
So, like, to me, that's how it could have gone. And so, if they just used the same director and showrunners, it would have, like, in my opinion, it would have made more sense.
Right, yeah.
But that's the thing, I do understand the critiques.
Yeah.
But again, it's not necessarily JJ's fault.
No.
That it's 2.0 when he had, like, a vision and then they let another person do the middle movie. Like,
That's
why?
it. Yeah.
But yeah. Anyways, back to Joe.
Yeah. So.
Because that's who we are today.
Right. Well, this is 2 years ago.
No, but I mean.
The timeline's all over the place.
I meant the whole, like, pausing, just go off on tangents bit.
Right, yeah. So he's telling me that he enjoyed the prequels more than the original series. Like, oh, okay, whatever. So then I was sitting with this guy, and I think his name was Riley, in the library, and we were talking and bullshitting, whatever. And I know he's very much one of those people who's very into the whole stuff, and I knew he was a huge Star Wars fan. So Joe comes up and starts talking to me, and whatever, and then I remember, we had this discussion where he likes the thing more.
So you hit him against the other guy?
Yeah, so the other guy was talking to another person who was with us, and I tap him on the shoulder. Oh, hey, wait a minute. Joe, Riley.
Joe has something interesting to say about the prequels.
This guy enjoys the prequels more, and it was like, there couldn't have been a more vicious fight between two stray dogs over, like, the last scrap of meat. Like, it was just, they were strange, and I did and they started, like they're having such a heated debate over this in the library. And then me and the fourth person who's there, I turn to him and I say, am I a bad person for doing this?
This is my legacy. Am I bad for enjoying it?
Like, it got bad enough where, like, the librarians had to come over and, like, separate. Like, it was.
I mean, at least you weren't on the quiet floor.
No, for sure, no. So.
That would have been worse. But yeah. Yeah, that is funny.
It's just like, I expected them to have a debate, sure, but I didn't expect them to, like, go for blood.
Yeah, that's funny. I like that.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with Joe once about how, so I never wrote the paper because PTSD, but originally I was thinking of doing a paper about Alexander the Great with queer history.
Okay.
And I think by this point I knew I was somewhat queer.
Okay.
I don't remember which flavor because it all just, all those years, like, I know my 2011, 2012 year, and my 2012 part of my 2012, 2013 year, pretty good. But then I start to lose track once it's 13, like what happened what, and then it's the 2016, 2017 year.
No.
So it's like the dark periods.
Okay.
So I think I knew I was queer, and I wanted to do something about Alexander the Great as a queer person, right? But obviously, like, she was like, you can't just prescribe these labels to them. I'm like, yeah, okay, fine.
Right.
But I want to explore it.
Okay, yeah.
And then I never did. But we were talking about it, and it was really funny. But Joe's not really, like, doesn't give off vibes that you would think that he would be okay with queer stuff.
No, that's...
He
but
doesn't
he
give those
had,
vibes,
he's not...
but he was really chill. And he
Right,
was
yeah.
actually kind of fascinated and kind of...
And that's...
He either said directly or indicated that he would have liked to read that paper.
Yeah.
Which never got written, so...
Yeah.
Didn't
But
happen, but,
that,
yeah.
That is one of his better qualities, is that he is someone who, like, genuinely takes interest in what you're saying. Like, it's weird.
That's one of the reasons why he's a good person, and he's
Yeah.
really like he's really nice and such.
Right.
It's only if you say stuff wrong in French, or you say something wrong about the French.
Right.
That's when.
Yeah.
That's when he gets annoying.
Yeah.
And with his little two fingers. You pronounced that wrong. It's like, I know I did. I can't pronounce French. I can't, like, I just told my friend yesterday that it wasn't until, like, he would have to say his girlfriend's name like 100 times.
Yeah.
Before I would be able to get the accent part of her name down.
Oh, okay.
Because Christine is how I say it. It does not sound anything like that when he says it with the French accent, which is valid. I was like, until I hear it a few hundred times, I'm gonna not do that.
Right.
And I can't roll my R's.
No.
I can't get those little things, right? Like, I probably could if I really, really tried. Because, like, that's kind of the whole point of nothing is impossible, right?
Right, yeah.
But I also, I know that the rolling my R's part is kind of off the table because that uses your tongue somehow.
Yeah.
And my tongue doesn't fully fit in my mouth, so I have a small jaw and a bit of an underbite, I think.
Mm.
And so my tongue's a little longer than my jaw is there. So like I don't think if it takes the tongue, I can't do it. But yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've talked about like everything and anything, so.
Yeah, pretty much. Jeez.
And I think I start losing the ability to speak louder by the end.
Okay.
'Cause look how tiny it is.
Yeah. It's getting smaller.
But yeah, so you want to record the ending bit, I guess.
Sure. I mean, I just go ending. But just one thing I wanted to say. What we're talking about is I have my recording set up, like my laptop set up, and we're looking at the actual like I don't know what you call it, like the.
I do know and I forget.
It's the actual like.
It's the waves.
Yeah, the waves.
The digital waves.
Yeah.
Of our voices.
Right.
And yeah, I knew I was gonna need water.
Yeah.
I forgot though that talking a lot also gets the jaw.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
So
Well,
I think that's why I've gotten quieter.
You want to know what happened last? not to prolong this.
Not to prolong.
Not to prolong this. But you want to know what happened last week? Is I hit up my buddy who lives out in Alberta, like, hey, do you want to do an episode? Like, I wanted to just see if the Zoom thing would work, and like, because I'd never used it before, what have you, and like, there's similar sort of things, like, we just hadn't seen each other in so long, and we just started talking and talking and talking. The thing is like, we just never stopped.
Yeah.
And so the original block recording was 4 hours. And so, like, after that, like, definitely, and the other thing, too, is we were drinking, too.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's like, I had to bust it to the bathroom. I had, like, my jaw was sore. Like, it was, don't get me wrong, it was an amazing thing. It's
like,
the last two
I
episodes.
can talk
they were
a lot, too,
great.
right? Like, I can still talk, but I am getting that I need to bust it to the wall.
Oh, yeah,
and
for
so,
sure.
like, for me, like, if I do that, like, we might as well finish.
Yeah, so I think that's it for today. Tune in next week. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.
No problem, anytime. And
maybe we'll try to have one a bit more on a topic.
Yeah,
that's in the future.
Hopefully, I don't know.
This is also us like catching up to a degree.
But I mean,
and like this is stuff that we would talk about if it was just us catching up.
Yeah,
too.
but I
like,
mean
there was parts that were clearly less, but
right. But I think. Yeah. But that's what I kind of like about, like, it's part of the reason why, like, I don't, like, try to fixate on topics. I tried that in very, very early. I'm not ever going to
like,
really
we can still have, like, a general topic. Like, this category of history or this current event thing, right? Like, because we were all over the place.
Yeah.
So you could have no scripts, just a broad topic kind of thing, right? Kind of like how seminar classes go.
Right, yeah.
Right? So something might come up that's off topic but relevant, right?
Right, yeah.
So like we could try that.
Right.
Just to see.
Maybe, yeah.
Like,
That is actually a good idea. It's just
Like not
I
saying
just
that
like
they have
I just like being able to freely go anywhere and have natural conversation.
Yeah, and
like
not
that's
not saying that this
Right,
is
yeah.
great. Just
Right.
like maybe
yeah.
at least something.
Because I know I
out
have
of it.
I know I have gotten criticism that like, oh, you're jumping all over the place. That you go, oh, I'm get interested in this, and then you go over there. So
Welcome to my ADHD.
I do
brain.
get that, but yeah. Okay, so now that we prolonged the ending by
We
like 10
prolonged our
minutes,
ending.
by like 10 minutes at least, probably.
You're
I don't know.
welcome.
Yeah. Okay, yes, thanks for listening. Tune in next week. I don't know, I was trying to think
Good
of
luck
what
with
time.
school if you're going back like me.
Yes, that's
Especially
a
in
no.
these COVID times.
Yes, in these COVID times, stay safe. Stay, away from people, I guess. I don't know, 6 feet. How?
Yeah, social distance. Stay masked up outside.
Yeah.
If you're alone outside and you're not in a busy place, that's fine. But like,
Yeah.
if you're in a city and you're outside walking from the store, you should still wear your mask.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. Thanks for tuning
Bye,
in.
friends.
Bye.